r/ask Reddit. What does everyone think they can do professionally, but really cannot? Photography, and in the same vein, photo editing. No, the sepia filter does not turn your photo of Olive Garden breadsticks into art gallery material. A woman has child, leaves her job to be stay-at-home mom. Simultaneously, husband purchases a decent SLR so she can take pictures of the kid. Woman posts pictures of her newborn to Facebook, gets a bunch of polite likes from family and friends. 1 week to 1 month later, woman figures out how to put a watermark on her pictures and, stupid name, photography is born. She is now a professional photographer, and friends and family are expected to hire her for all of their photography needs. I see this happen on probably a monthly basis on my Facebook feed. Gets expensive. High-tech camera, only uses the auto setting. Mother ducking farming. Everybody and their brother thinks it'd be cute to settle down on a farm and grow their own food. But that shit is hard. It takes so much organization. According to my farm simulator account, I am pretty good. I have 6 million banked already. You gotta admit that forestry ain't easy though. Acting is more difficult than it looks. When it's well done it looks so natural it seems like it'd be easy. The problem is we're all wired to spot fake performances and hone that skill to varying degrees. It makes the job far more difficult than it seems on the surface. There's a certain tone that people don't realize they have when acting. They think they look real, but in reality they over-dramatize words and sound like they are reading from a script. It's so difficult to be convincing. You also run into problems from the opposite direction. Some people try to mumble and grumble their way to realism, but there's no point if you can't be heard understood, especially on stage. Write and sell books. Most people seem to think that if they just sat down and typed, they could be a successful author. They should try it sometime. I have tremendous respect for successful professional authors. It's hard work and it takes talent very few people have. It also takes a big leap of faith to even try. It annoys me quite a bit how difficult it is to write compelling stories. I have plenty of vague ideas, and I often write them down, wishing I could do more with it. But then you have to find a way to remove all the plot holes, make it believable, yet keep it interesting by introducing a certain amount of intrigue and twists. And that's still the relatively easy part. The most difficult part in my opinion is fleshing out interesting characters, making them interact in a way which continuously adds depth yet also makes them fit into the main plot line. I feel like writing would be 90% thinking and taking notes, plotting causality and relationship diagrams and timelines containing events, somehow making it all fit into your own brain, not confusing yourself too much with all the possible options, and only 10% typing. Daughter of a professional author here. I've seen my mother go through the writing, publishing, editing, marketing process dozens of times, and here's my take to it. Any idiot can come up with a story idea and write it out. First drafts always look like shit. They read like shit. They're always pure garbage. My mother has to rewrite her stories several times before her editor is even willing to hear about it. The real job of an author really is not to only come up with an interesting, compelling story but to flesh it out and watch as you are forced to completely rip it to shreds and then build it back up, change things, and redo everything several times over. This is why authors have editors. It's naive to think everything you see in a book is the author's original work. That poor person had to rewrite that several times over. They were made to change tons of stuff over and over. I know this because it's literally all I hear about at the dinner table. So yeah, anyone can write, but it takes drive to become a published author. Edit, because everyone in my inbox keeps asking. My mother writes gay erotica novels. Teach kids. It is damn hard and will make you go nuts when unprepared. There is no way in hell you could pay me enough to teach kids. No thanks. Most teachers don't get paid enough to teach kids. Drive. We're all idiots. All drivers on the road are idiots except for me. Everyone who drives. Hey, I know I'm a danger to everyone I come across. I deliberately turned down a job an hour away because I was scared I would kill myself and someone else if I drove that much. Judging from Reddit, being a lawyer, so many editors think they are super attorneys because they had a high school civics class or watched a video on why not to talk to the police. It isn't that simple in the real world. TV also plays a role here. 99% plus of the legal profession occurs outside the courtroom. You can't just circumvent procedural rules by giving a rousing speech about justice. Probably an extreme example, but when litigating the worst case of my career, the pro said, representing himself, guy on the other side cited to the Pledge of Allegiance. That is, the Pledge of Allegiance promises justice for all, and if the court denied his motion, then there wouldn't be justice for him. Therefore the motion should be granted. The underlying motion itself was similarly incoherent. How do you even start to argue against that kind of logic? So naturally the judge gave him leave to amend and set another hearing date. You can't just circumvent procedural rules by giving a rousing speech about justice. But what if you could? The grinderists make their own websites, and then they devalue what they think it should cost to hire a professional to turn their original Wix or Squarespace nightmare into the buzzing e-commerce site that they've envisioned. Holy shit, yes. I recently got an email from a guy describing a website that would take several months of full-time work to make. My payment? 1% of everything the website earns once it's done. Guy was a wannabe writer that hadn't even published his first book. Duck that noise. People are willing to spend $5 a day on coffee they could make themselves for 50 cents, and then won't spend one thin dime on the face of their livelihood on the internet. Duck them all and their cheapskate asses. Esports. People argue that it's just playing video games, but top tier teams live together and spend hours practicing, almost like a physical sports team minus the attractiveness. To add to this, it's harder than even most gamers realize. I was almost pro back in CS 1.3.1.6. In any normal server I would utterly imbalance the teams by joining. I played mostly with other almost pro clans and could hold my own as consistently one of the top players there. Once I got into the invite-only leagues I would just get crushed. I mean, I put up a fight, but even with a fair amount of natural skill and thousands of hours of practice I just wasn't at their level. I was in the top 1% and it wasn't even close to enough to compete. I remember watching a video for some reason about Boxer, the StarCraft player, and it was saying at his level he needs to play a minimum of 10 hours a day just to keep consistent at the top level. Professional gaming is much more of a chore than most people realize. Commercial arts of various sorts, professional illustration, graphic design, product design, etc. To be more specific, designing a logo. Everyone and their mothers think they can do it, and that's the reason why there are so many terrible logos out there. Nah, it's easy. Just make a circle, put a big X shape in it, perhaps made of 2 crossed arrows. Then in the 4 quadrants put your company's initials and an icon or 2 like a pine tree or a wooden pipe. DIY, specifically carpentry. Everybody looks at a table and says, yeah, all I need is a saw and a drill to build that. Would save me a fortune. Easy. Semicolon. If it were that easy, it wouldn't cost £350. Exactly. Did that table cost the company $20 to make? Probably. But you are not paying for the cost of material or even labor. You are paying for their skill and ability to make a useful table. You're paying for the tableness. Script writing or filmmaking in general. It can't be that hard to hold a camera. Tarantino didn't go to film school either. Comedy. Specifically stand-up comedy. Oftentimes people don't realize how much work a comedian has to put into a set to make it performance ready. A successful stand-up show isn't just a list of funny jokes. It is a vignette of carefully timed stories and observations, placed so that the audience is kept entertained and captivated. A good comedian is just as good of a writer as they are a storyteller. No one transitions into stand-up from acting. Stand-up comics can branch out into other fields, but no one seems to successfully go the other way. That tells you how hard it is. YouTubers. I know that PewDiePie's channel rakes in 6 figures plus every year, and many people think that it's just some guy filming himself playing video games. Although that is part of the job, it's not the whole thing. You need to have some sort of charisma, charm and humor in order to do it professionally. PewDiePie also had the fact that he moved meaning local recommendations got spread across 2 countries when he moved to Italy from Sweden, which is the main theory as to why he got so popular. The rest was snowball effect. He effectively gamed the system. Although inadvertently, he's very good at what he does and reads his audience well. My mom asked this about my brother. She said, well, he likes playing games. Maybe he could make money at it. I said, yes, he likes playing games, and he's good at them. But does he enjoy recording it, commentating, editing, adding effect, and publishing on a tight deadline? Probably not. He probably could be good at it, but he's never had an interest in any of those things. So I'm not sure it would work out unless he threw himself into it 110%. Run a restaurant. I'm speaking from experience. You think you will just spend your time chatting with your friends while your cooks make your food and your staff bring you wine. But restaurants require constant attention to operate properly, so maybe you can talk with your friends. If you've already put in your 100 hours that week, and all of your staff has shown up, and it's a slow period, and none of your equipment has exploded, and the health inspector isn't there, and you're not running out of romaine/$5 bills vodka, and the sinks aren't clogged, and nobody's cut themselves too badly, and there's no delivery occurring, and there's no drunk needing to be ejected, and none of your staff needs to talk to you about a day off their petty squabbles wanting to leave early, and edit. To clarify, I'm not restaurant employee bashing here. I've been one for 20 years. I'm saying people who believe running a restaurant is easy don't consider that staff management takes time. Having spent most of my life working in restaurants, I'm pretty sure the first step in owning a restaurant is knowing nothing about doing so. The second step is to show up randomly. Yell at everyone for doing it wrong. Try to show them the way you think is right. It isn't. Piss off the staff. Make a mess of everything. Get in the way, then go home thinking you did nothing wrong. Now I understand the difference between running and owning a restaurant. Their dream job. That cut me deep, but you're probably right. I wrote and recorded a song for you, The Tale of You / I'm a Pirate King. https://soundcloud.com Cavalier Pirate King. Chords written relative to a capo on the 6th fret. M, G, A, M, M, G, M. In my dreams I sail the 7 seas, whoring and looting with my matties. A pirate ship is what I need to find, to leave my life on the corporate grind. DM, I'm MX3, FG. But if I'm fair about my skills, I have to take motion sickness pills. If I'm honest about my resume, I'm afraid of waves and swordplay. I may be pretty good at the voice, and I'd take a hook if I had the choice, but I'd probably be a lousy pirate king, and so I'll stick to accounting. Be an offensive or defensive coordinator for a football team. But it's so clear, all they've got to do is cover number 82. He's tearing us apart. Just run the ball. I work as a translator and basically everyone who knows a couple of foreign words thinks they can translate. Yes, I'm bilingual but hate translating. The languages are almost separate entities in my head. That's the point. Knowing more than one language doesn't make you a translator by default, but sure make you ideal to study translation. After reading this thread I've realized I actually can't do shit. Fighting. People tend to have a very overconfident idea of how they would perform in a fight. Everything is super hard. How dare you even try? I fold paper airplanes for a living and a lot of people think they can do it, but as a professional you really see the difference. Most people don't even line up their sheet edges, let alone crease the seam. The amount of botched jobs I see on a daily basis is really pretty scary when you consider just how crowded airspace is. Eyes can be poked out if a plane isn't constructed properly. Nowadays, with technology making it cheaper and easier than ever, amateurs are folding legal and even tabloid-sized multi-sheet aircraft without realizing that you can just put some bullshit watermarks on your planes, make a Facebook page and call yourself a professional. Music production. Along the same lines as photography mentioned earlier, basic music production software and equipment is readily available and is affordable to most these days. Compared to the tens of thousands of dollar signs required in the pre-digital era, it is possible to record and produce music to a reasonable standard at home, after much learning and practice. but many seem to think professional recording studios aren't worth using at all. The result is many substandard demos circulating, and a devaluation of professional studios, both in monetary terms and general respect and understanding for the craft. Guy obtains a copy of Fruity Loops Studio. He then puts the word producer on his Twitter profile. He is now a producer. I had a very idealistic dream of the road before I actually got on it. Being on tour is basically just hoping to God that the next exit has something other than ducking subway. Use Microsoft Excel. I've heard about someone my company hired who was an Excel expert. Used it all the time in their old job. When they got there they knew nothing of formulas and were doing all the math on a calculator and just using Excel to store the results. It's very easy for someone who knows little of Excel to think they are an expert as they don't know what all is there. Someone who has moderate knowledge may consider themselves a novice as they know there are many other features they don't use. In interviews it is best to ask about specific Excel skills, namely lookups and pivot tables. Microsoft Excel is easy to use. Anyone can type in an equal sign and add up a few numbers. Using it as a powerful tool, creating a useful program that is easy for your clients to use is very difficult. Write poetry. I've met two people who hardcore identified as poets and believed they could make a living doing it. Poets and believed they could make a living doing it. All arts are hard to make money at, but poetry may be the hardest by ranking. From easiest to hardest. And easiest is not even close to easy. Crafts, pottery, glassblowing, etc. Musician, artist, actor, comedian, dancer, with clothes on, not a stripper, poet. Dancer, with clothes off, stripper, crafts, pottery, glassblowing, etc. Musician, artist, actor, comedian, dancer, with clothes on, not a stripper, poet. Give nutritional advice. Web design and photography. Give advice to depressed people. Give out diet and exercise advice. It can be quite dangerous, especially all of the post-pregnancy workouts that pop up on my Facebook feed. Seek professional advice before starting a drastic diet or exercise regime. Back in middle school everyone thought they could easily be a professional rapper. There's no way all those white kids could all be rappers. Write poetry and stories. Sure, anyone can write, but writing literature that will be accepted for publication win a competition? It's a proper craft that is hard and takes a long time to do well. I've met many amateur writers who think they're an undiscovered genius but they don't even think about editing a first draft. Most of the things you write will be utter shit. It's one of the first things you should learn and accept. I wish people would realize that. Writing lame prose, broken up, into lines like this, does not actually count as free verse. Play guitar. Just cause you can play CGAF with decent rhythm and write okay lyrics doesn't mean you're very good or that you should go on tour. Guitar is really easy to be okay at. That's why it's still one of the most popular instruments, but hard to be great at. Edit. By being great I don't necessarily mean being a virtuoso of the fretboard, but that too. My comment was mostly directed towards songwriting. It takes a great musical ear to write good songs on the guitar, but it's very easy to write decent to subpar songs. It doesn't take a lot of time to learn that M and G sound good together, nor does it take a lot of time to tune to drop D and make a heavy metal song. Anyone can learn a few chords and perform them at a coffee shop. This doesn't always mean it's good. In all honesty, coffee shop performers often bore me to death. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Directing a movie. You have a DP to shoot your movie and a screenwriter to pen the script. Audiences aren't that discerning and a one take and that's a rap guy like Clint Eastwood has more Oscars than a perfectionist like Kubrick. Tom Ford went from the fashion world to directing A Single Man, which earned a 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. So how hard could it be? Music. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Singing. Oh my god. Singing. You've got some really good professional ones and you've got people who can't sing for shit but think they're all that since they got paid once because the community theater was desperate. I know this woman, more of an acquaintance, who calls herself a singer, model and actress, and she tries so hard to act sultry and sexy when she sings, but her voice is all over the place. She sang La Vie en Rose once at this club. I honestly felt like crawling up my own backside. Cringe. Sing. especially if X Factor Pop Idol is anything to go by. Interior design. As a librarian, finding quality information. No, not everything is available on the internet, let alone the World Wide Web, and your ability to search even that is awful. Please stop by the reference desk. We really can help you. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.